I have now passed the 1,000 subscriber mark, and to commemorate this milestone, I thought I'd party with a party game for the PS2, my very first gaming console. This is a game called My Street. While I actually have some vague memories of renting from the video store as a kid, the first thing we'll need to do is create a character. In story mode, this kid has just moved into the neighborhood, so we want to make sure she's someone that will fit right in.
I'm full of beans now.
That's gross. It's perfect. Name? Sus. It's ironic because who would trust this face? The story's premise is that you're here to make friends with the other kids before school starts. To do that, you'll need to beat them at their own games 3 times each. But you can't just walk up to someone and expect to play with them right away. You'll need to complete a task first.
You are for real unprepared to play with me. You don't have any bling bling. No marbles, kid. You'll need a shooter and 4 peewees. Come back when you've got what it takes.
Huh?
I think she just said that we need to get some marbles. So let's buy some at the store up the street. Now we're ready to play our first game. And what do we say if we want to take up her offer to play? Whatever. Well, fuck you too then, you little shit. Don't play with her if you're going to be that way about it. In this marble game, each player controls a large marble on the table. As smaller marbles appear, you'll need to gather them up with your large marble's magnetic field and drop them into the goal. All in all, it's pretty simple. So simple, in fact, that there's a very easy strategy to win. Just hang around the goal and steal the small marbles as they're about to drop. Hey, there's no rule against it, so it's not cheating. Now it's time for round 2. Except not, because Anne here needs to go home. See, this game has a day-to-night cycle, where most of the kids need to go home by the time early evening hits. Without doing anything else during the day, you'll be able to play about 3 games in one day before it's time to turn in. While it's not a very complex system, it's nonetheless kind of interesting to see something like this in a party game of all things, along with the open world that's here to run around in. The graphics are pretty so-so as a whole, but everything's very colorful and detailed, which makes things far from boring to look at. After winning marbles 3 times, Anne will now let us use her things. Now we can put on these flippers and this mask to swim to the little island and retrieve the volleyball for Sean. In this game, you volley a ball across a net until someone loses. I admit it's not terrible, but this does feel like one of the lowest effort games in here. They don't even have any power-ups to spice things up. Once you've succeeded thrice, Sam will give you the passcode to Myron's lab, the local Dexter wannabe. To me, it seems just a little bit rude to just give that to someone without asking the other person first, and simply assuming that they'll be okay with it. But as my character would say, whatever. This next chemistry game is basically a Puyo Puyo clone, where you match up colored blocks and create combos. If you played one Puyo Puyo clone, you've basically played them all. Now we can take this empty gas can and fill it up with fuel, which means we can now play Tanyas Game. Hers is a race on riding lawnmowers, but with a bit of a twist. Not only are you racing around the track, you're also racking up points by cutting grass, as well as completing laps. You'll also lose points if you run over the flowers. One of the more interesting games for sure, but I can't help but take note of the safety concerns involved in letting small children use riding lawnmowers unsupervised. One slip up, and you'll have more than just shredded flowers to worry about. After that, Tanya will give us a pair of garden shears. We can use these to trim the vines blocking our backyard, but we can find a dog toy. This will come in handy later. For now, it's time to do some farm chores. We'll start by luring this smelly cow out of the barn, which is easier said than done because the fucker keeps wanting to turn around and go back inside. Oh, come the fuck on! You were literally right just at the exit! Just go! After that, we need to very slowly feed the pigs, then very slowly feed the chickens. Finally, we can play Susie's game. For this one, you need to place tiles on the ground in order to guide chickens and chicks into your coop, while avoiding the pigs. Again, this is one of the better games of the bunch. It's very fast-paced, and you constantly need to be aware of your surroundings. Other players can easily sabotage you, but you could just as easily sabotage them. Once that's done, you can now do farm chores to earn $5 per day. Oh, wonderful! I sure love walking as slow as humanly possible to feed some animals. Seriously, what kind of weirdo freak wants to do farm chores in a video game? I at least found the best way to get the cow out of the barn. You need to constantly tap it as it's moving, so it doesn't have a chance to stop and turn around. Once you've accumulated enough money, you can now buy a remote-controlled car to play Dale's racing game. It's a standard top-down racer, and each track has their own sets of obstacles. I'll also confess that I need to save Scott way more than I'd like to admit on the third round. And you gotta love how one of the tracks is called Truck U. Very subtle game. After that was finally said and done, Dale gives us the key to the bully's gate, who has no name because he sucks. I'm also not sure how Dale got his hands on that key, but I can only imagine that he somehow stole it. That would then make the question as to how he stole it, but since his parents seem to own the nearby auto shop, perhaps he took it while the bully's parents were getting their car serviced. But that's just me overthinking a children's video game. Anyways, now that we're able to open the gate, we can use the squeaky toy we found earlier to distract the dog. Our final game is Dodgeball. All I can say about this one is that Bully did it better. Ironic, eh? Also, why does this game have power-ups, but not Volleyball? Maybe they ran out of time. After that, the bully cries like the little bitch that he is. Fast forward to the first day of school, and you don't have the respect and fear of everyone in the neighborhood. So bow down, assholes. And if you'd rather just play the mini games on their own, there's a Sandbox mode where you're free to run around and play as you please, without any kind of time limits. Interestingly enough, there was also an online mode, where multiple people could not only play against each other in the mini games, but also all roam around together in the same server neighborhood, in town with other players. From what I understand, it was pretty sophisticated for its time, although seeing as how I don't often see it talked about, I'm not so sure how much it was actually utilized. This game is pretty clearly aimed at a young child audience, which isn't a bad thing, but I think even the target audience will lose interest in it soon enough, even with the flashy presentation. Having a measly 7 minigames in total, with 5 of them being just fine and 2 of them actually being pretty good, isn't the best trade-off either. I'm sure it would keep kids entertained for a little while, but it also won't take long for them to move on to something more interesting, so it's hard to recommend this game to anyone. That being said, it's also hard for me to be too harsh on this game. As I said, the setting has some very nice cartoon-like detailing, with each home looking very distinct and appropriate for the kids' personalities. It basically looks like a stereotypical American suburb, but wackier. While these characters' characterizations are pretty one-note, they're definitely memorable and befitting of a cartoonish setting. Which, funny enough, makes me think of those licensed games where you create your own character to interact with the pre-established characters of whatever the game is adapting. Except as far as I know, nothing more came out of this title. So yes, this game is kind of style over substance. But while the style might not be perfect, it's certainly charming in its own right, and overall pretty decent. It also helps that the substance isn't horrible either, just rather lackluster. And of course, anyone that's been watching this channel long enough knows I've got a certain endearment towards weird, obscure, and unique games. Perhaps some of the life sim-esque aspects earned it a few points too. Again, I don't think I'd recommend this to people looking for a good party game. But if you have an interest in gaming oddities like I do, it might be worth at least a glance. And apparently, the online is now functional again, so it seems other people share a similar sentiment. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to click like, and subscribe if you want to see more.